Anybody arrived in yet other than us?
We're live.
We're live,
Yay.
guys. And welcome to another session, another exciting, and I mean exciting session of the Black Ink Book Festival. Personally, I think this is the most important part of it, but it's okay because we're going to talk about how we can help you get your books into libraries and bookstores. And I mean, we have a young lady here, Isis. If y'all have not followed her, put your link out there. If y'all have not followed her on Instagram, y'all need to follow this child. She has the largest selection of sci-fi books, and that is an underdeveloped area when it comes to minorities. Everybody knows about Doctor Who. I like Doctor Who too, but even though I don't like that new guy they got for Doctor Who, though I don't like. I'm a David Tennant fan. So we're here to help you get your books into libraries and to bookstores. Um, the young lady, Mahogany, she works at the Richland Library. She loves unusual and recommends all kinds of books. We have Amy at the Charleston County Library. They actually have a form for you to fill out to so you can get your books into the libraries. And of course, Isis. I mean, her Instagram alone. Just read her Instagram. Just follow her. And anybody on here who has an Instagram, TikTok, whatever, follow because we do provide a lot of information. Now, do we have any questions from anybody, or and I can or not? I can have Mahogany start with what she can do to help you.
So no questions? Huh? Okay. Um, so I am at Richland Library, and one of the things that we do is we have a portion of our website called Biblioboard, where it
Mhm.
allows individual authors to publish their materials. We also have a local authors section in Columbia, and we allow customers to submit their works to be included in the system to actually be available for reading. And those same items could be interlibrary loaned to other locations. If they know that we have it, we're able to send it out to different country, like different libraries across the country. So that's one way to get your items in front of different people or make them available to different people.
Mahogany, when people say, "Well, I have this book," is there anything in particular you're looking for, or you just cover the whole gamut?
We cover the whole gamut. As long as it is available in print or digitally, like for the Biblioboard. If it's local, again, local author is kind of subjective. So
Yeah.
I think that we consider South Carolina local, and we would get that into our local author collection through submissions. And we have like a local, so on our website, which is richlandlibrary.com, we have a section for authors.
Hmm.
And it goes over our local author submission form. It has information on how to use the Biblioboard process. We have like regular trainings that we offer inside the library for people to come and learn how to use those resources as well.
Do you guys print the books out for them, or do you send it out to be published and printed out?
So we only take books that are already like bound or that
Okay.
are um, done in a PDF format, like already, like if they have it in PDF or Word and they can upload it. digitally, but we don't have any way currently to bind and send books that way.
Well, thank you. Amy, you guys follow the same format, but you have something different. Are your books only for local in South Carolina as well?
No, it did. Our form started out as a way to, discover more local authors, but we realized as we were really refining the process, we're interested in hearing from indie authors. The big five publishers are not getting everybody, right? I mean, it is still a pretty narrow view of the world, I think, that comes out through the publishing world. And so, with the proliferation of self-publishing tools, and I mean, it's so easy to do that now, that we want to hear those voices. We want to hear from the authors that don't necessarily have, a marketing team behind them, or necessarily even an agent. It's difficult though. Like up until the time that we came up with this process, it was very hard. We have a small selection team. It was very hard to read everything. You can't. We rely heavily on reading reviews, industry reviews that give you, kind of a digestible and vetted, like this is a good bet, and patrons are going to be interested in this. And those review sources are certainly, I feel like they've gotten better over the years, but it's such a small, narrow, you're just not seeing everything, right? And so what was difficult for us is we don't have time to read an entire book, considering the volume of material that we receive. So what we came up with is, here, I'll share my screen so I can just show it to you. It is telling me I can't share for some reason.
You're frozen, Amy.
Oh no.
She's not frozen on my end.
Oh.
If she's not frozen on anybody else's end, she can keep going. On my end, she's frozen. But
can you hear me at least?
Oh yes, we can. Very clearly.
I'll talk about the form first, and then I'll share it later.
Okay.
But basically, the process that we came up with was, a lot of publishing houses will have a process where they will receive a sample chapter and a synopsis of the book, and that is what they read for unsolicited manuscripts, and that is what they will review to say, okay, does this look like something that we should read the whole thing and decide whether to publish? Well, it's a very similar process for us. It basically gives a much more streamlined way for our selectors to review those submissions, and also it puts everything into the queue so that it's official. We know what we've received as submissions, because it used to be that people would just drop off books at the different branches, and we've now got 18 branches, and it might make it to entirely the wrong person, like maybe the director, or a branch manager that isn't that might want to read the book but isn't going to be able to purchase it. That's the other thing. If we select a book that is submitted to us, we purchase it because we want to support authors. So we would rather not have donations. We just want to support authors and go through that whole process. The material that we receive through the local author submission, started out as local authors, the indie author and filmmaker submission form is determined. The selection is determined by our collection development policy, which is also on our website. And we just kind of with that filter in mind, we look at those submissions and then make the selections. And actually, there's a second step If the selector is interested, then they contact the author, they ask for a full review copy, and then they review it and then make the determination. So usually it's, if the first hurdle is cleared, the second hurdle is as well, because that sample chapter is a pretty good predictor. And then, we also adding to what Mahogany was saying, we do something sort of similar too. We really rely on, our staff and our patrons to let us know about books that, we've missed. So we have a patron suggestion form and also a staff suggestion form as well. And, that really helps us, I think, fill in the gaps. And so that's what I've got so far. And it looks like I still cannot share my screen, but I will try later in the segment. So,
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
That's good information, and you can share the screen, or after a while you could not share the screen.
Oh,
Just the
I'll do
link
the
is on
URL.
the Johnson County Library thing, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. I will do the URL right now. Can you guys see the chat?
yes.
Okay, then I just shared the URL for that, and I'll do the other two forms as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Isis.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So the way we support indie authors is, I wish it was as structured as Mahogany and Amy's process. But we really want to let the world know about indie authors' books. And we focus on, even in this hyper niche focus, Black and Indigenous. We have a prioritization of women and non-binary people, but we're open to people who don't fall in that gender categorization. We're writing science fiction and fantasy. So if you've written a historical novel, congratulations and kudos, but that is not within what Sister Sci-Fi focuses on. And we do that primarily, Belinda, as you were saying, through social media.
Yeah.
Last year, we launched Sister Sci-Fi Wind Down Wednesdays, and Sister Sci-Fi Turned Up Tuesdays, Thursdays. So we love having authors on that. So we're currently scheduling authors for this year, for 2023. And that's a good way, even if like Sister Sci-Fi isn't selling the book, I love having conversations with the authors. So last year we did a lot of conversations. That when we talked to Amanda Ross and her book In the House of Transcendence. Yeah. Beautiful cover. If you are like, Sister Sci-Fi has to sell my book because it's a must as an author, and you want to email me about that, what I'm looking for in those submissions is, one, indications that it is a good book. And so I'm looking for like several reviews on rating sites. So that's Goodreads, other bookstores, and it's not like one or two, but like 10 or 20 or 30, and it's over 4 stars. I'm looking for a beautiful cover. Now it's hard because it's your baby and you're like, oh my God, this cover is beautiful. As somebody who doesn't know you, there is a service by, I think it's Black Urban World. I'll drop the link in the chat that will rate your book cover. So that I'm not going to tell anybody their book cover isn't beautiful. I just know what is beautiful to me. But if you have some indication, like, yes, I know this is a beautiful book cover, that's great. And then I'm also looking for authors who have like their community. So one example is TJ Young and the Orishas. That author reached out to me, and then I put it on social media, and people were like, the cover is beautiful. I read this book. I loved it. And we eventually ended up carrying it. And then also like, that author already had a very engaged social media. It doesn't matter what platform, if it's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, but it helps me if you, the author, have a community, and then I can introduce your book to my community, and you can introduce Sister Sci-Fi to your community. And I do that whether it's indie author or if it's like a big 5 publisher recommending the book. It's like, I will do this book and I'll publish it. Can we collaborate on spreading the word about it? And then it's like I talk about it on social media, and it's like, because I love talking about these books. So it might be a book club, it might be a Wind Down Wednesday, it might be a social media post, and next month there'll be Sister Sci-Fi book vending machine. So leaning more into potential for in-person events. And
Oh,
like one coffee shop is like, when are you going to bring authors in here? Like, or when are we going to start doing author events? So yeah, so if you live in the Seattle or Bay Area and interested in a sister sci-fi event, email me about that. So in summary, ways to collaborate. If you want me to sell your book, I talked about those parameters. If you want to be on a sister sci-fi wine down Wednesday, let me know. And if you want to be in an in-person event in Seattle or Oakland, shoot me an email.
well, you are having a surge in 2023 because everything is now sci-fi. Kindred um, is on Hulu. I don't have TV, so when people tell me they on things, I go to YouTube. Um, Megan, which is a horror movie, but kind of a sci-fi. The screenwriter is a very well-known Black writer, and a lot of people don't know that Frank Yerby, who used to write westerns during the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and everybody thought he was white because he hung out with Zane Grey, is Black. And I found that out because my mother told me he was Black. So the movie or the TV show Tombstone, have any of y'all ever seen that? Any of our people out there? I think Kevin Costner's in there and some other people are in there.
Yeah.
Tombstone it's like going back to the Clint Eastwood movies of the spaghetti westerns. Well, there's a new movie that's going to be coming out based on Frank Yerby's books, which is a western, and they want to convert it into a little bit of a sci-fi.
Oh,
So there's two Black screenwriters who are working on it because it's the western. It's during that time period of Zane Grey and the spaghetti westerns, and because of the big surge in sci-fi and movies like Tombstone, which is bringing back the westerns, they want to do another western with a Black character. But I think they did do a western last year with some Black characters because one of the actresses was Regina King.
The Harder
yes,
They
the harder they
Fall or
fall.
something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
was phenomenal.
yeah. Oh yeah. I managed to watch that. So Isis, you're having a surge. So when people come to you and say, well, it's not sci-fi, but it can be sci-fi. Do you help them see how it can be sci-fi? Because sci-fi for everybody is subjective. Everybody sees sci-fi a little differently.
You are right. So I think as a Black woman entrepreneur and a bookstore owner, my first year in business, I had to learn my lane, right? People are like, oh, you should go into publishing or you should write books. You should. And I'm like, oh, there's, a lot of things I should do if I had unlimited time and resources. So right now, Sister Sci-Fi is a bookstore. Sister Sci is a bookseller. And I love having conversations and highlighting books that are done and published traditionally or self-published.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's because I'm not a writer, it's harder for me to be a part of the creation process. And going back to the surge of speculative fiction, science fiction, and fantasy, yeah, it's really exciting. And I want to say people have been in the space
Forever.
literally forever. Like Trey Renee Thomas did Dark Matter, an anthology of Black speculative fiction, which came out like over 20 years ago. And that included work by W.E.B. Du Bois. So I'm sure you know, but W.E. Du Bois was writing science fiction and like, in addition to all the other stuff he wrote. And the other like stories of the time period. So and I remember growing up when science fiction and fantasy was something that only like supposedly white nerds are into. And it's like, it's good to see like everybody's like, there's a way where we can all step out of all those social constructs and reimagine our everyday reality. I think that's fun for like everybody, but particularly if you're a historically marginalized community, if you're Black, if you're a woman, if you're poor, it's just like, I think science fiction and fantasy is even more powerful for communities such as that. Or in my experience, it was really powerful for me.
Oh, I totally agree with that. Rod Sterling, who wrote The Twilight Zone, two or three of his stories are based on African Americans. And he was born and raised in Pennsylvania, and he lived down the street from an African American family. And the story where the story of the girl whose face is deformed and it's not looking like everybody else's face, who's white, he got that story from his black neighbor.
Mm.
So sci-fi has been around since the beginning of time. I just think it's a lot of the African Americans and other minorities have been ignored in that sci-fi genre. But the one who opened up that door, or rather kicked that door down, was Octavia Butler. She literally kicked the door down, said no. And it's kind of eerie that her books was written in 1960. I can't remember the quite year. That what she wrote 30, 40 years ago is coming true now.
Yeah.
So that's scary, but that's good.
It's
Amy, do you get a lot more requests for sci-fi, or do a lot of people drop off sci-fi with the Charleston County Library?
I don't think that we get a lot of sci-fi submissions from indie authors, not yet anyway. But that we're not seeing like a real uptick in the genre from that perspective. We definitely have a lot of readers. As far as what we, it is a popular circulating category, really across the board. So, but as far as our patron suggestion submissions, we certainly, I would say it's kind of across the board what we receive. It's really our selectors, I think, are very they try to anticipate what is going to be popular and get it way before it might even be, because they're reading, the trade publications and are kind of paying attention to what's coming out. So, as far as what we receive through the suggestions for purchase, it's usually what they haven't found. I can't say that sci-fi is necessarily like one of the top trending ones yet, but I mean it's a popular genre period in our area for sure. I think that's only going to get more popular. So yeah,
that's probably true. Mahogany, are you finding it or no, or it's just a little bit?
I'm finding that a lot more people are coming in and asking for sci-fi. It's interesting because, again, like you mentioned, Octavia Butler is becoming more popular with the Parable of the Sower series, Kindred being on TV, and more people are finding out that those kinds of authors exist in that category. And so they're asking for more of those in our library. And again, I specifically try to cover those in my blogs to let you know, like, you might not have known, like, especially with a popular author that maybe you didn't know that they wrote something that was sci-fi or fantasy, in addition to their other titles, which are usually historical fiction, like Colson Whitehead. So trying to exemplify those kind of characteristics in storytelling are kind of what I'm interested in, and I'm trying to find my other people that are also interested in it, and they're starting to recognize that they can come in and see that these titles exist and ask for them. And we're like, oh yeah, we've got plenty of these. Also, there's these that we don't have, but you can probably get them from somewhere else until we do have it, or you can ask us to get it.
Oh, now that's very true. Now, when it comes to bookstores, how we try to advocate for indie authors is I have a script that I say, well, first of all, got to get online. You got to get on social media, Instagram, Facebook. And right now, I am tired of only a small slither of minorities on that book talk on TikTok. There needs to be more of us. Now I'm on TikTok and I try to get on there. I try. I know it's hard for some authors to say, well, my book is on Amazon. That's great, but nobody's going to find your book on Amazon if you don't tell nobody. And you have to tell somebody not one time and not two times. Now, if you this is a hobby for you and you don't want to do the social media thing, that's fine. And if you want your books to be brought for the libraries or purchased or brought at the bookstores or through other types of website, you got to tell us because we would never know. We will never know. We try our best to say, okay, indie authors, if you want to come in and have us sell your book, who publishes your book? We need to go to them to buy the book directly. Or we give them a second option. You can come in and have a book signing for a small fee and sell the book right there to the customers coming in the door. But you've got to realize who our customers are compared to Mahogany or compared to Charleston County, downtown Charleston or Somerville. You got to understand who my customer base are, where my store is. And you got to tell people who you are. Why did you write this book? What do you who's your audience? Who do you want to go to? And I know that's been hard for a lot of indie authors. They'll bring it to the libraries, and Amy and Mahogany, you can tell me if I'm correct on this. Oh my, I just wrote a book and it's a great book. But you're telling only the two of you. You're not telling the world. You're not, well, I got it on Amazon and Amazon's going, thank you very much. If somebody buys it, I'm gonna get my cut and you'll get your cut. But they're not advertising. And right now we're going through a publishing, I call it a backlash, during 2020 and 2021, the publishers were really out there pushing all types of books by all types of authors. And now they seem to be backtracking. And Barnes and Nobles has started this. Well, we're not going to sell your book unless we know you're going to make over $10,000 for this, for not just the store, but just for the overall. So the indie authors don't get an opportunity for people to walk into the neighborhood Barnes and Nobles and see their book. And they think, well, I'm going to go to Amazon and get your book. But you got to go to Amazon and look for their book. And I do not know all the ins and outs. I'm only going by what some of the authors have told me. They have put their books on Amazon to sell. And the book may sell for 10, but they may only get $3 or $4. Or in some cases, some author told me they only got $2. I don't know how true that is. I'm sure there's various sums that they get. And they'll say, well, I only made, $15 this month. And I would say, who did you tell that your book was on Amazon? Who did you tell that your book is sold at this store and this store and this store? And then I'll get well, can't you buy my book from Amazon? I said, I might as well just go on and buy your book because the store is not going to make a profit if we just buy the book for the price that Amazon has. And that's why people say, well, I can get it from Amazon cheaper. Yeah, but Amazon is not paying for rent or the gas or the payroll or they're not paying for that. Bookstores are. So I try to get that across to indie authors. But the number one thing I tell them is, I don't care if I'm selling your book, ISIS is selling your book, the library has your book available. Nobody's going to find your book unless you tell us your book is there. And you've got to get on Book Talk. There's truly not enough of us, sci-fi, historical, romance, in all genre on Book Talk. There's two, and if people say, well, that's nothing. No, 4 books because of Book Talk. One was Colleen Hoover. One was A.K. Kang. Their books have surpassed how many books were sold for Agatha Christie and the Bible only because of Book Talk. Now I get on Book Talk and I'll talk about a book like I'm going to be on Book Talk this week talking about Khadijah Brown because she's coming to our store to do signing. But that woman is all over social media. And the food is good though. I have to admit that. I like that food. I did try to cook one of the dishes. I don't know what I did wrong, but even my dog looked at me and said, I'm not even going to eat that. I don't know what you did. So that end that story. But, Tabitha Brown, I invited her. Now, I know she's got a long, I think I'm at the bottom of that list to come to the store to do a signing. So I hope it gets across to indie authors, help us help you. Give us a good detail. Give us your background. Tell us that one day you were sitting there walking the dog and the story came up to you. Tell us one day that you had something devastating happen in your life and you want to write it down because you think it will help somebody else. That's even better because you can get on TikTok and social media and explain how it can make somebody feel better. And you don't always have to talk about your book on the social media. I mean, everybody knows Perry Mason, and that's my dog's name. I mean, I talk about Perry Mason because I walk him and I'm either listening to a book or talking about the book. And they don't care about the book as much, or they don't care about me and they care about the book, but they care more about Perry Mason. I have more people coming into my store asking me, how's that dog doing? Then, how am I doing? I'm the owner of the store. My manager is running it. So you guys, y'all have got to have some other ideas how we can help these indie authors get their books in the libraries and stores. And Jim McQueen, Ingram, that's another one. Ingram, you don't always have to go to Amazon. You can go to Ingram and get your books published, and you may get a little bit more money. And now, I'm not sure. I hear different stories. And what people don't know is Amazon buys from Ingram. Yes, they do. If the book is out, the Ingram plant there's one in Canada, Tennessee. Amy West, there's another one. There's 2 more. There's 2 big.
There's also one in Pennsylvania, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, and
Yes.
In Indiana or
And
I think that's it. And I think the one in Indiana is 1 mile from the Amazon distribution plant.
mm-hmm.
So let's give more money to the indie authors than money to Amazon. Thank you, Mr. McQueen. So Mahogany, what else can they do to get their books to us?
My biggest thought is talk to us. Like, if you don't talk to us, we don't know that your book exists sometimes. I mean, I'm out there looking because I like the weird stuff, and a lot of the weird stuff is becoming mainstream now. Like, we have a lot of different authors like Cadwell Turnbull that are breaking through, but some of them are still really small and you have to search. We've got P. Jelly Clark writing the different things, but for every P. Jelly Clark or Cadwell Turnbull, there are 50 other authors that haven't gotten mainstream, so to speak. And if they're not putting their information out there for us to find it, then it's hard for us to advocate on their behalf.
Yes.
So, my biggest thing is, if you see librarians, talk about your book. If you come into bookstores, talk about your book. Like, talk to us about the fact that it exists. We can't get copies of it if we don't know about it.
Yeah. I'd like to add to that. I think it's important, at least for getting your books into libraries. We're set up. There are so many different sizes and types of public libraries. Like if you're talking about a very small library that maybe has one or two branches, going in and like finding out who makes the purchasing decision and talking to them, or if they have a submission process, doing that, but also talking to the frontline librarians and just kind of getting the word out. And Belinda, you're so right. I mean, getting the word out by social media is like, that is the great equalizer, I think, now, because what the advantage that authors that are published by a big publishing house they have a marketing team that is just pushing, like making sure, and also just making sure that the book distributors and the bookstores and the libraries know about they're visible. And so the biggest challenge for us is just exactly what Belinda and Mahogany just said, is just finding them in the first place. It's sort of like when the internet came into being, and all of a sudden there's just this proliferation of sites that you can find information, and the challenge of that is there's so much of it that you have to have a way to find the information, to find the information that's true, or that is, because there's so much of it. And self-publishing is very much that is a similar problem that presents for us. Is there are so many gems, I know, but finding them is difficult, because it's so easy to do it now. You've got to really make sure that you're getting your voice out there. Social media, talking to us, finding out who makes the purchasing decisions for libraries. That's a big thing, because it's so different. Not everybody has forms. Sometimes it really is just finding out the right email, or because if you send it to the wrong person, it's like sending it to a dead letter office. That's the saddest thing about it. And that was kind of the situation that we were in for until we designed the form that I was talking about earlier. It's because sometimes we would never realize that someone had even submitted something to us. So, it is really finding out who the right person is important. And also just that promotion, self-promotion, so important. And like with our synopsis, just specifically for us, that is that opportunity, the sample chapter and the synopsis is really where you sell your book, and maybe the reason why you wrote it. I mean, like that's where it's like, that's the sales pitch right there, the elevator pitch, as they say. So yeah, it's so important.
Yeah. So Amy and Mahogany, those are really insightful. For me, I would also add the level that as an author, your relationship to like bookstores and libraries, it's like a relationship to your best friend or like family members, right? Like, you're not going to be deeply connected to every bookstore and library, but pick the ones and build a long-term relationship where you both grow, right? So I think I have one great example, Angela Dalton, who their second book, To Boldly Go, How Nichelle Nichols and Star Trek Helped Advance the Civil Rights Movement. It is a long title, but I'm really excited about this book. And she didn't message me when she had a publication date. She didn't message me when she had the idea. She messaged me when she found about Sister Sci-Fi, because she thought maybe she might write a science fiction related children's book, and actively supported us, like was engaged on social media. So before she was like, oh, Isis, like I have a book, this is the publication date, can you help? Like I knew her as a person, right? And there are like lots of other, like most of the time it's me chasing after them. Like with Sheree Renee Harris, Thomas, I'm sorry. It was like, oh, you write in the genre. I would love for you to be like an author that like, when something comes out, like I can have you on a Sister Sci-Fi Wind Down Wednesday, I can get signed copies of your book, right? And so whenever she comes out with something, I'm happy to promote because it's not just like a book is dropping, sell it, right? Um, and also, I know that she's very engaged in a community that I would like Sister Sci-Fi to be quickly recognizable in. So that's something like authors, as you reach out to bookstores and libraries, what's the structure of the relationship beyond you selling a book or a library or a bookstore purchasing book, right? Um, yeah.
But I think, Isis, you have an advantage to right now. You sell sci-fi books, and I think indie authors are going to come to you because they. I know you get a lot of arcs. I think we all do. We can't read them all. I wish we could. I get them every day. But you have an advantage if an indie author who wrote a sci-fi book should come to you. This is only my recommendation. Hey, I got a sci-fi book. Can you read the first 5 chapters or 3 chapters and tell me what you think? Because we, as bookstores and librarians and libraries, we just don't have the time. I mean, I'm a two-person bookstore, and I work full time, and my manager takes care of the store. And when she comes, to me the next day or the day after, oh, here's a stack of arcs. Oh my God, I can't get through it. But you have an advantage because your arcs are specifically sci-fi. So if they want to, instead of them giving you a book, maybe they should say, could you read the first 3 chapters and tell me what you think? If it's worth it, if it's a good idea, you know, what do you think? You have a recommendation of book covers? Because let me tell you, folks, book covers are extremely, book covers are 90% of your book sold. 90%. 10% is the book, but 90% of your book is sold. So if you have a book cover, now who has these fancy book covers? PC Kane, the horror movie. Well, not horror. She's got a vampire and a witch and all of that in there. Um, the teens that are coming out with the books, they have their book covers are just bright and clear, and there's a couple of people on the cover. It's 90% of the selling the book. So that's just another suggestion you may want to offer to authors. Hey,
Yeah.
can you just read the first 2 or 3 chapters and tell me what you think? Because it's important. The first 2 or 3 chapters is important. And if you're going to buy that book.
Yeah. I read way too slowly to like authors are like, oh yeah, read. I'm like, I I read way too slowly for that. And also like I'm not a writer. So my thing is Black creators, indigenous creators, I'm happy you're creating. I'm not I'm not a critic. So like I can tell you I don't like it, but I won't be able to give you any structural feedback about how to make it better. And so I don't know if it, and also I read really slowly. Like it's hard enough for me to read the books for the Wind Down Wednesdays. So like I'm at capacity. Like I read too slowly for this. So yeah, even with something hyper niche, I'm like, like I was like, I would love to read your art, and I would love to read like books by like M.K. Jemisin, and like I still haven't read Unexpected Stories by Octavia Butler. Like there was a book that I still haven't read Starland by River Solomon. Like yes, there are a lot of books that I want to read. So yeah, like to me as a bookstore, it's also important to continue to read for pleasure. So
Yeah.
as much as I'd love to be able to read all the, I can't.
Well, you don't have to necessarily read the book, but if it doesn't catch your eye, the book cover.
Yes.
There
And
you go. Now, see, that's a good tip for you.
yeah, and that's why
Yeah,
I couldn't rate Mark because I do have like I was talking to somebody about this, like their book covers. I'm
yeah.
like, this is a beautiful book cover, and their book covers. I'm like, but also I want to subject, which is why I ask for book reviews. So I'm like, I'm not going to read it, but if you have like 4.5 stars on Goodread, I know that's, and you have 20 reviewers, that's probably a good book. Um, so it's hard for me to give like a database example for book covers, which is now why I'm asking people to do rate my
Mhm.
book cover. And also like in rate my book cover, the reviewers can give feedback. Because all I can say is like, I don't like that book cover, right? That doesn't help you. It's like Isis doesn't like my book cover. What am I going to do with this, right? But if you submit it to rate my book, and you get a rating of a 3, and people are like, I can't read the title. I don't like the proportions of this face. That's something that you can then take to your next designer.
You still have an advantage because you
yes, I
you
do
have a huge Instagram following, and you put your Instagram account on there, you're going to probably get some more following, and so is the libraries. I'm sure Mahogany and Amy, y'all going to get a lot more questions.
Yeah,
I want my book out there. I want my book out there.
yeah.
You're right.
Like for social media, it's like a garden. And like with me and Instagram, I wake up every morning, I post. I have lunch, I post. I have dinner, I post. It's a relationship. My significant other is the Sister Sci-Fi Instagram account. And I mean, I'd love to have y'all on a live to talk about what we're reading in the science fiction and fantasy genre and what we think the trends are. But yeah, it really is. It's like a garden, and it's like, what are your practices you're doing every day? Even when like I post something, I was like, nobody looked at this, nobody liked it. Like I don't. And then,
you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Gary V says, post. So only one person like it. You shouldn't stop posting.
Post it.
Put yourself on a schedule. Now we got so many links and stuff. Like I would do 5 book talks, and then I would set it up to post one in the morning, one in the evening, and one here. And because I have it on Book Talk on TikTok, it will also go to the Facebook page and the Instagram page and the Twitter. So there are software gadgets that'll do that for you.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't have to get up there and say, "Oh, you're going to read my book?" No, talk about you as the person. And when I'm on TikTok, I don't just talk about me. I talk about the Black Ink Book Festival, and I love to talk about libraries. I'm always talking about the Charleston County Library. Even I was at some function, and I was standing outside, and I was doing a book talk because look, I'm at my favorite place, the Charleston County Library. That's encouraging. That's getting you out, And the libraries, Amy and Mahogany, some of the libraries on TikTok, one library in, I want to say Winston-Salem, that library's TikTok just exploded because they're in the library and they're not necessarily reading books. They're just doing everything. They're outside having a cup of coffee. Somebody but there's a book somewhere in the picture. Libraries are getting with the program on Book Talk. This is amazing. Amy, you got any more suggestions for us? Because I still want Issa to get into that. I think I don't think she realized she's good.
Oh yeah.
She's good.
Yeah. I was just researching. I just wanted to make sure I was telling everybody the right thing. We had a question come in through the chat about how we do an author how to contact us about doing an author signing for CCPL. And I just wanted to make sure I had the most up-to-date information. I just posted it to the chat. Just go to our website at ccpl.org. /programming, and it will tell you like all of the guidelines, and then we have a form. So that is definitely another way to kind of get your name out there and to make contact with us. Now I will say though that signing up for an event doesn't necessarily mean that. Please still submit to the form as soon as you know you have a book that is completed and ready to go, because that's the way to get the book into the collection. But yeah, I think the Book Talk thing is fascinating and just, I mean, it's unlimited possibility, really. Unlimited. Yeah.
I'm so jealous of the libraries that have book talks because I'm like, oh, can we get on this?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, you're right. Oh, I love them. Love them.
And it's
Now,
also like,
I just got an idea. I'm going to do, because now on Book Talk, you know, you can interview your favorite author or your favorite social media. I think I'm going to set up a Book Talk and interview ISIS.
Yes.
yes, please.
Yes. And on Book Talk, and, you know, because, well, you know, all of my friends are bookstore owners. Just, and
I love that.
that would be good because we could talk about the sci-fi books and the sci-fi TV shows and how sci-fi for 22, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is it's just exploding. But so is romance. And right now, I think the Bridgerton thing
Yeah.
it's not quite over yet, but I want somebody to make a decision. Okay, it's just moving. You got to wait for season 3, really? I'm okay. We won't get into that. Let's get back to books. Even though she wrote that book in 2013.
I didn't know that.
Oh
I
yeah,
love, yeah, I love book to television adaptations, and I'm glad that like I'm finally in the space where I've read the book and it's becoming adapted. So I was, even though Kindred was super divisive, like people either loved it or hated it, right?
yes,
Which is fair. I was just like, but I've read the book. I know the book. I was just so excited. So I'm just like excited to be in the space where it's like I've read the book and I like know the book for these
Mhm.
book to television adaptations. Because usually, like with The Walking Dead, I was like, I did not read the graphic novel. I don't know what happened to the characters. I don't have any of the context. I love the show, and so I'm happy to like be in that space now.
Well, one of the things that I find interesting about book to video adaptations is that, yes, I would like for original content to happen, but in order for them to do an adaptation, they have to make changes. So that's another way for an original story to be told based off of previous content. So, you know, it's not going to be exactly the same. It's not. And there's
Yeah.
going to be changes which then become a different story.
Yes.
And you know, just having some of those stories be told at all is amazing. Like the fact that Kindred is on television is an amazing thing for me. Like
Agree.
you know, I read Octavia Butler books starting when I was 13,
mm-hmm.
and that was my intro into sci-fi fantasy. And to see how that has progressed over the years, like how many more
Yes.
authors have been inspired by her, and Tanana Reeve do, and just seeing though like those different stories come to life, like Ava DuVernay taking different stories and making them video and digital, and just I'm just really excited about this new age where we get
Yeah.
these new stories like yeah.
No, I 100% agree with all of that. Um, and I think the one thing I wanted to reiterate is that like book to television adaptations, the television version will be different. It might be significantly different. One of my favorite book to television adaptations was by Ava DuVernay, and it was Queen Sugar. And I love the books, and I loved all those adaptations. Like they added brand new siblings. Like there's no Nova in the book, and I could not imagine that television show without Nova. Right?
Yes,
Charlie's broke in
yes,
the book, right? And she fallen in the show, and I'm like, I'm here for Rich Charlie. So it's like, be like, as readers, if readers are authors, like if authors, if you get your stuff adapted, just know that there will be significant changes and create room for that as long as it adds depth to the story. Because I mean, there are bad book to television adaptations, but as long as it adds depth and allows
mm-hmm.
readers and new people interacting with it to go deeper into the story, I think that's beautiful. Anyway, so I agreed with everything you're saying, Mahogany.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm putting a link to Horror Noir because you talked about Antiana Reeve Dune. And if you haven't watched the documentary and you like Black horror,
So good. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. Oh,
Sci-fi is the reason I love sci-fi is it is the world you want to go in because it's a world that does have every type of human being or whatever is going around. And you don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next day to the next day. You don't know what it's going to warp into or develop into. And I just like that. And well, Savannah, we have 5 more minutes, or do we are we ending at 2? Because girl, we can go on forever about supporting authors. And do we have any more questions from um, anyone who would like to know how do they get their books in these stores and these libraries? Uh, Rhonda, you're right. A book to film adaptation does bring attention to your novel, but like Isa said, you got to be careful when you write that screenplay. Or are you going to write the screenplay, or is somebody else going to write the screenplay and get it produced? Because it is easy now to produce your own movie. You got an iPhone, and then this new iPhone coming out, you can produce your own movie and put your own movie on YouTube. And I don't think a lot of people were aware of that. You can now do that because there's a lot of shorts and a lot of movies, and sometimes the big movie production companies find it. Oh, I didn't know that. And they produce it, because I think last year's authors, two guys who did some comedies and some graphic videos, got picked up by Pixar.
Mm.
So it is possible, but like Savannah has said in the chat, you have got to do the work. You got to tell people who you are, what you do, why is your book important. Fill out the forms with the Charleston County Library. Reach out to Isa's Instagram. Let me tell you, that Instagram is truly, I don't know why this girl's not on TikTok. I just don't understand. She needs to move on to TikTok, but she will be on TikTok in about a week or two, because we're gonna interview her on TikTok.
There's a Sister Sci-Fi TikTok page. It's just
Yeah. Yes.
yes, so it's there. So yes, but we will do a TikTok live together. I'm super excited.
Oh yeah, because there's not enough of us on TikTok. There's just not enough. And some of the stuff they put on TikTok that's related to books, it's great. And some of it you go, I don't know. And today it was announced that you can get up-to-date news, better news, clearer news on TikTok than you can get on CNN, C-SPAN, and the regular TV station.
I'm here for
Because
it.
you know who heard about the FAA fiasco yesterday when the computer went down? TikTok. TikTok announced it, and people were at the airport. Wait a minute now. What do you mean we can't get on our plane? That's how they heard about it. And then the news announced 15 minutes later, I'm sorry, the planes are down because FAA had a computer glitch. But they knew it on TikTok before the planes took off, before to find out what. And then, of course, that caused, it didn't cause chaos, but people go, that's what's going on. I can't get on the plane. So they said TikTok is giving that. Now, that's TikTok now. Who knows? Because of sci-fi, who knows what's going to change into in 24 and 25. They says there's 2 or 3 other new platforms coming up. I have no idea. Look, it just took me last year to figure out how to get on TikTok right.
Right.
And I know a lot of authors go, I'm shy. I don't want to do it. Well, then you don't do it. Get your friends to do it. Have your friends go on TikTok and social media and promote your book or talk about your book. If you and I understand some people don't want to get out there, but if you don't get out there, nobody's buying your book. You got to get out there.
Agreed.
Are there any other questions, Miss Savannah? Oh, it's 2:00.
It's 2:00.
Okay. Hey, Mahogany, we lost you for a second.
Hey, sorry, everybody. Yeah, I'm back.
Well, it's 2:00. Before Savannah kicks us off, give me one more idea from you guys. Mahogany, you go first.
I would love to see more fantasy and sci-fi authors, just in general. So I think that they should be out there. If you have an idea, write it and publish it and get it to us because we are interested in promoting it.
Amy.
I would really just say more of the same. Yeah, I mean, to get the ideas, just write the ideas that you have, and then promote, and contact us. Yeah, and yeah, if I don't have another chance to say anything before the panel ends, this has been just an absolute delight. Thank you guys so much for including me.
Isis.
Thank you. I agree with Amy and Mahogany. Also, this is in that this has been delightful. I would say social media is a conversation, and part of having a conversation is finding your tribe. So promote, but more importantly, connect. Who is your book meant for? Who are they? So do you need to connect with moms? Do you need to connect with weirdos? Do you need to connect with Black people who are really excited about aliens who are purple and like have a short left leg? Whatever, find your community. I promise you that out there, and have a conversation with them. What are they watching on television? What books are they excited about? What conferences are they going to? Have, like, number one, like, connect and have a conversation. I'm like highly introverted and super shy, but having those conversations and getting to learn about people and getting to learn more about myself and just nerding out about stuff makes me feel safe on social media. So it can be a gift in that way.
Yeah, because sci-fi is here to stay. Did y'all know that the guy who played the alien in the first 3 alien movies was a Black guy?
I don't know. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
They needed somebody tall.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
And he was, I don't know if he was a wrestler. He wasn't a basketball player. He was something else, and I can't remember. He was a Black guy.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't realize Twilight Zone had 2 or 3 very famous African Americans. One of them was Ivan Dixon, who played in Hogan's Heroes.
Oh,
yeah. So we're back there. You just got to go back there and look, and you'll be surprised when you do more and more digging how many sci-fi authors and writers were out there. I mean, Langston Hughes he wrote poems, right? But a friend of mine's from DC told me that he has a sci-fi poem, and I said, you have got to find that for me.
I'm gonna look for it.
Yeah, look for it. Langston Hughes.
And so by the time we do our TikTok live, I will have it. And
And in the Harlem Renaissance, there's one other sci-fi writer there. I don't remember who that is. During the Harlem Renaissance.
Yeah, but okay, we'll find it.
So guys, I think Savannah, is it 2:00? You're gonna kick us out yet? Okay. And she said the red area.
Okay. Yeah, the sessions. So I can bye everybody.
Bye.
Oh, this has been so much fun.
I had a great time.
Sci-fi.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for moderating, Valinda, and having all that information. Like, it's just been great.
Oh yeah, because I'm nosy. I'm gonna look for everything. Okay, go to the backstage. All right.